So I found time to watch Insidious, The Red Door. And as things go, I think this is touted to be the final film in the Insidious franchise, and that's probably for the best. But, well, it's doing a lot better than they probably thought it would. They didn't spend a lot of money on it, so they had the potential of making a profit, and, well, they did. Because of the bizarre circumstances of the current era that leads to a ginormous franchise like Indiana Jones to fall so very low. And so it performed well. And it probably holds more attention on the circumstances than the film itself. The film itself is not bad. It's okay. It's a credible continuation of the story that the film started out with, or the series rather started out with, and it probably the best was the first two, especially since you're on that cliffhanger and it's, oh no, he's possessed, and then you got to go through him being rescued and all that. And the development of the characters, and that's what carries these things, because each movie it's basically the same thing. They got to go into the further, and that's the basis of this one. There was talk of crossing it over with Sinister, and in that aspect, I guess I could see the possibilities there, and that these demons, some of them are ghosts, but I suppose they were tormented by demons, so they kind of become demons themselves in the afterlife. It gets a bit confusing, but in that nature of it, and the danger of these entities from this, the netherverse, or the realm of the dead, or what have you, the spiritual world, I guess, fits in. So I suppose they could have done it. But Sinister didn't do so well. Insidious did much better. The first Sinister film is really good and really terrifying. The follow-up, not so much, and so, well, there you are. Whereas Insidious, well, they crafted this narrative with their cast, and so it had something to cling to, and that's how that went. And you get the backstory of the old lady who's really the driving force of trying to understand all this and explaining it. And of course, it also feeds into the idea that some people have this ability, and psychics and whatnot, and the astral projections and that sort of thing, which appears to be something genetic with the male line of this family. So the father and the son, and the son had a similar. The father had this ability. You see the flashbacks in the earlier days, and then ultimately they decided, look, every time you go to bed and have a dream, you go off into the further. So, and then especially since you're aware of it after it's happened, so the idea was to hypnotize them so that they didn't remember. And that was the deal. And there you go. The door is closed. The red door will never be opened again. Well, we got a franchise to do. So, and that aspect of it is actually probably one of the best parts about it. Is like, well, look, they closed it off. They decided to move away from that. It's too dangerous, and all that sort of stuff. Well, there's consequences for that, and it's in their lives. So Patrick Wilson's character, he got divorced. Just having the mental block had problems for him. He couldn't function and think as well, and he was frustrated. He didn't know why. But of course, his wife couldn't tell him, because then you would open up the horrors of the further. And then they're also protecting their son. So as a result, the father and son are at odds. His son has grown up. He's going to college and all this stuff. And there's this distance between them. And as what happened in these circumstances, and it's all sad and unfortunate, especially compounded by the reality that this was this heroic sacrifice that the father made. He just doesn't remember doing it and doesn't know how and why this came about. The rest of it is the spooky atmospherics, which is the strongest part of these films. And I say these because it's Insidious and Sinister, and of course the whole Conjuring universe endeavor. I think captures this idea that was more about atmospherics and whatnot as far as the draw on it. Very little gore and that sort of thing, and was a nice reprieve from the trends of torture porn movies that was going on, which I did not like. And also an antidote to the found footage, which I was always a sucker for, but most found footage films were terrible. And so here came this, and just through, again, mood and atmospherics went a long way. They've lasted a lot longer, and lasting in the sense that they are continuations of a franchise rather than just doing another movie with a different sort of setup. But for the most part, it's all hauntings, demonic possession, and that sort of thing. And so it is played out. Maybe someone can come up with a different angle on it for some other film, but as far as Insidious going forward, I don't know. I think they've pretty much told the stories of the characters that they established, and that's the other strength of it, that there's interest in, well, what happens to them now. You could do another one, but after this, where I think they've both, the father and son, have come to accept and come to command their abilities here and understand the dangers of this, astral spirit realm or what have you. And so it has a nice send-off for it in that aspect. I don't know if they'd want to do a spin-off with the two goofy paranormal guys who only show up in a cameo in this one. But essentially, this is, what else could you do? They kind of had their story played out as well. Especially, they had to mourn the loss of their mentor and all that. She is gone. And of course, you got her whole terrible backstory and whatnot. A lot of it's just, it's going to be mad at daddy scenario. And there's some of that, but there's redemption and understanding. Patrick Wilson's father, well, guess what? Grandpa passed it on. So he was the original. Well, of course, maybe his dad had it too. I don't know. A guy who had the ability, and it drove him insane, and that's why he wasn't around and that sort of thing. And so there's a resolution to that. And, so that's a nice thing. He's come to understand his father, and he's in the same position as his father. So it's that repetitive thing. And he saves his son nearly at the cost of his own life and all that sort of stuff. So it was fine. Of course, it's doing much better than it probably would have, but there's a following for it. There's an interest, a fan base for it. So it was going to have people like that, well, myself, show up for it. But it's probably going to be more notable in this bizarre collapse of Lucasfilm and whatnot and all that sort of thing that played out to its advantage. But at the same time, this is a good, I think, a good conclusion for this franchise. And it's not that the ideas or the atmospherics and whatnot can't still work. It's just a matter, it's going to be a little harder because it's been played out in these films. But, but better to do something completely separate from it and move on to some other aspect of horror. So anyway, there you go. The red door has been closed, and I think it should stay shut, just like the movie says. And that's a good send-off for Insidious.